everyone, it's Pixelade here and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. Today we are focusing on one of the biggest features of Adventure Awaits, and that is the return of imaginary friends. EA held a developer Q&A on Discord with Molly, who's the producer for this system, and we now have a complete breakdown of how all of it works. I've gone through the full conversation as well as the Sims community's extended report just to make sure we don't miss any details. So this video is going to be a full complete deep dive. So if you've been curious about how imaginary friends play out in The Sims 4, definitely settle in, grab your favorite snack, your favorite drink, because we have a lot to cover. So let's start with the basics. Imaginary friends begin as special dolls called Imagine Me dolls. They aren't gifts you randomly get in The Sims 3. Instead, they're build mode objects you can purchase straight out of the catalog. Adults can't craft them and they don't arrive in the mail, but you can buy them as easily as everything else. If you really wanted to tell a different kind of story, Molly even pointed out that you could set up a retail store in your world to sell the dolls that way. Now, once a child has a doll, they can interact with it like any other toy. They can carry it around, tell its secrets, and pour their hearts out to it, but there are requirements before that doll becomes a true imaginary friend. The child either needs to reach level 3 in the creativity skill or become lonely enough that they need a friend right away. This is exactly what I was hoping would be the case. It kind of gives you a little something to work towards before you can get this whole system rolling. So on top of that, they have to build a relationship with the doll, which actually shows up in the relationship panel. Only then can the child imagine up the doll into a walking, talking, fully fledged imaginary friend. Now, one of the first questions people had was whether toddlers or even childish adult Sims could take part in all of this, and the answer is sadly no. Toddlers cannot interact with the dolls at all, and only children can turn them into imaginary friends. Even childish adults can't see them. So this feature is really designed to be rooted in childhood. Personally, I'm okay with that. I know most Sims players out there have been begging for more child things and child exclusive things, so this is kind of giving us that. So each child can only have one imaginary friend at a time. If they're not happy with the one they've got, there's an option to say goodbye forever, and then you can purchase another doll. And a nice touch here is that the dolls can be passed down across generations, so a grandchild could pick up a grandparent's old doll and make an imaginary friend of their own from it. So there are 4 designs of Imagine Me dolls. We have Lil Monster, Pretty Pegacorn, Crafty Kid, and Wild Child. Each one has a default personality attached to it. So Lil Monster is goofy, Pretty Pegacorn is evil, Crafty Kid is creative, and Wild Child is competitive. But before you imagine the doll into an imaginary friend, you can actually customize their personality and their name. Once the friend is imagined up though, both the name and the personality are locked in until or unless you make them real later on. And yes, these dolls do not have recolors. Molly explained that they wanted to offer a small set of distinct personalities rather than just variations of one design like we had in The Sims 3. That way, each one feels more defined and helps tell different kinds of stories. Now, once the imaginary friend exists, only the child who imagined them can see them. To everyone else, it looks like the child is talking to an empty space while the doll just sits on the ground. It's gonna be so weird from other Sims' perspectives. I am always here for a little Delulu moment. So other Sims get reactions similar to watching someone with the erratic trait. And if you're wondering about pets, they can actually sense them too. Both cats and dogs, if you own that expansion pack, will look at them and even get thought bubbles about them, but they won't interact since they know on some level that the imaginary friend isn't real. So imaginary friends do have a bit of autonomy. They'll mostly stick to the child they're bonded to, suggesting things to do together and showing up when needed. For example, if the child has a nightmare, the imaginary friend will appear to comfort them. They're not wandering around town randomly, and there won't be dozens of them running rampant. It is all player driven. This was a huge concern of mine, so I'm happy that has been officially addressed. Imagine an entire world full of imaginary friend dolls. Even creepier if they all happen to be the same variant. So their personalities really shape their interactions, so creative imaginary friends suggest things like arts and crafts, or even cross-stitching and knitting if you own those packs. Competitive ones encourage video games and other active challenges. Evil imaginary friends recommend mischief or even bad behavior. And yes, evil imaginary friends can go as far as teaching children how to set fires. They'll also encourage mean interactions, and if a child listens to them often enough, that child can gain the budding evil persona trait, which might later develop into the full evil trait as they age up. So there's a lot of progression here with all of this, a lot of gameplay to be discovered, and so many different paths that this could lead down for your storytelling. Now, on the flip side, if you just keep the dolls around into adulthood without ever making it real, Sims can still seek comfort from an old friend, so that's gonna give different moodlets based on the relationship they had with the imaginary friend as a child. So now I want to talk about one of the best parts of imaginary friends, which is making them real. So this happens once the child who created the imaginary friend ages up into a teen. If the relationship is strong enough, they'll unlock the option to offer to make real on the doll. Using it turns the imaginary friend into a real teen sim. It's a big payoff for building that bond as a child, and also an incentive not to mistreat your imaginary friend early on. Because if you do, I'm assuming you won't have the option to see them be real. Now, when they do become real, they're added to the household, but they join as a roommate rather than a family member. You can then choose to adopt them into the family if you'd like. I like that we have that option. So they'll spawn with a randomized name, giving them a sort of fresh start as a sim, but of course you can take them into cast and change that. Once they're real, they are fully customizable like any other sim. This was already confirmed. So all their outfits, like Crafty Kids' adorable set, for example, will become available to you in cast, though Molly half joked you could cheat for them as well. So I like that we have gameplay to play to unlock things, but I'm always here for some cheats in case you don't want to do it all. Their made real look isn't random either. Each of the 4 dolls has a consistent human form design, so if you turn Pretty Pegacorn real, she'll also look the same initially. We see that from some of the screenshots that they've posted, and of course after that you're free to edit them however you like in cast and have them match either the story you're telling or the vibe and aesthetic you're going for. But once they are real, there are no limitations. They're treated as full, normal, regular Sims. They can attend high school, grow up through all the life stages, eventually have children of their own once they reach adulthood, have jobs, all of that. But unlike something like Patchy from the Sims 4 Seasons expansion, they don't come with special occult powers or hidden traits. They're not passing down anything magical to their kids either. The point is that they finally get to live as normal Sims after being imaginary for so long. There is a fun little detail here. Imaginary friends who become real are immune to the creeped out buff that comes from seeing a child talk to no one, because they know from the power of imagination what's really happening there. It's kind of giving Toy Story. I love it. We also learned that you can't make them real as children, so it only happens when the original child ages up to a teen, and again, this is entirely player controlled. NPCs won't autonomously spawn their own imaginary friends and then start making them real, so you don't have to worry about 30 copies of the same sim walking around your save. Now, one last thing worth pointing out is about the storytelling flexibility. Even though the system is fairly defined, we have 4 dolls, 1 imaginary friend per child. They have player-driven control exclusively. There are still layers you can play with. The dolls can carry across generations, personalities can be set before the imaginary friend is imagined up, and their interactions tie into packs you already own. So that's gonna open up a lot of space for cross-pack storytelling, something that the Sims 3 system didn't have at all. And with all of that, we have covered literally everything. I think I got most stuff. If there is anything missing, please let me know down below. But imaginary friends in The Sims 4 Adventure Waits are looking so good. I'm honestly kind of blown away, I'm not going to lie. And I feel like this is probably where most of the budget for this expansion pack went, of course, along with the world. I want to hear from you guys. Are you excited about having imaginary friends back in the game? And are you planning to use them for storytelling, or do you think they might end up being a little too niche? Definitely share all of your thoughts, questions, and even concerns if you have them below. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Take care and happy life simming.